Hi everybody, FPL Witty here, back for another of my weekly FPL videos. Hope that you're well. We're back out here again. If it's the first one that you've seen, then it's good to have you with us. I know a few of you tend to watch every week, so it's good that you're sticking with it as well. So the idea is that we get out once a week, have a good old chat about FPL, have a look at some of the key issues of the week, really, have a look at the game week that's gone and the week ahead. So we're out in the West Yorkshire countryside, out and about, none of this studio stuff, so we're out and about telling it like it is. So I'm recording this on the Wednesday of the second week of the international break, so we've not had any football for a while, but we've got some coming up next week. At the weekend, hopefully we get a full game week after we've had two very much disrupted weeks. So I hope you've had a good international break. A lot of people who are taking FPL very seriously and intensely have had a bit of a break from it. I think sometimes you've got to do that. So hope you're well, hope you've enjoyed the international football as well. England finally got a goal from open play at last, and they went goal crazy, didn't they, after going 2-0 down, almost pulled off one of the comebacks of the season. But unfortunately, Mr. Pope couldn't handle a bar of soap in his 6-yard box, so we had to settle for a draw. But certainly an entertaining second half, wasn't it? So hope you've enjoyed the international break. A few of our regular players have been scoring goals, of course, as well. None more so than Mitrovic, who's bagged 4 goals, including a hat-trick. So these videos, what we've tended to do is, really in the 15 minutes that we've got, is have a look back at the last game week in a bit more detail, and then look ahead. Well, a week ago, if you were here, we went through game week 8 in full detail. So today will be more about looking ahead and trying to address some of the key issues and talking points and some of the key decisions that many of us have got really over the next few days before game week 9. So game week 8, very briefly, just to recap, it was the week that Son scored his hat-trick, of course, but like most, I was scratching around to put a team together. In the end, I played my wild card a week earlier than planned, and it went pretty well, really. I got 61 points, which gave me a green arrow up from 142,000 up to 105,000. So 6 green arrows out of 7, top 1%, looking good. But of course, having played my wild card, I do feel a little bit vulnerable now to those who've got the wild card in the back pocket. So at least I've got the points in the bag at the moment, so we'll see how that one works out. So yeah, a lot of people now will be on wildcard, won't they, on game week 9. The international break's always a popular time to play the wildcard. It allows you to deal with a lot of injuries that tend to crop up, and we've had a few, haven't we, although not that many. In terms of ones that might be popular on people's teams, we've got Patterson of Everton, a good budget defender, ruled out for a few weeks. We've got Luca Dean, was injured, and in my case, I brought Newcastle's Isak in last week, and he's injured as well. So that's one that I've got to deal with. So I think they're probably the more high-profile 3, but generally we've escaped injuries pretty well. Prices have not really been changing very much over the international break, so I think that's measure of the fact that most of the transfers have been wildcards, which don't sort of feed into the price changes. So yeah, we're looking ahead really to game week 9 at the weekend, and we've got some good action, haven't we? We've got a few derbies. We've got the North London derby, Arsenal Spurs. We've got the Manchester derby, United City. We've got Crystal Palace Chelsea, another London derby. And we've even got an East Midlands derby between Leicester and Forest, so certainly some good games in prospect. So I'll try and cover some of the key sort of talking points and issues that apply not just to my team, to other people, but I think there might be a bit of a common ground. So in terms of my plan for this week, I was either looking to roll the transfer, having wildcarded, or when I did wildcard, of course, Salah wasn't playing in game week 8, so I put Kevin De Bruyne in, which worked out very well. But I did leave money back specifically to be able to get Mo Salah back, either straight away in game week 9 or in game week 12. That was the plan. So one of my big decisions was whether or not to go through with that plan and bring Salah straight back. So that was one I've been thinking about all week. Of course, Salah plays Brighton at home, very attractive, but Kevin De Bruyne can potentially match him really against Manchester United, I think. And then he's got a good fixture at home to Southampton, and Mo's got a couple of tricky ones. So I was probably edging towards waiting to game week 12 really to bring De Bruyne back when Manchester City don't play, and Salah is at home to West Ham and will probably be I would imagine a captain favourite that week. So I think that was where I was heading. I fancy De Bruyne perhaps to match Salah over the next 3. And then of course I've had the injury to Isak, so that's rather sort of cemented that one really. I think my priority will probably be now to get rid of Isak. So a lot of people brought him in on wildcard, so there'll be some key decisions there as to who the best striker replacement is. I think certainly Haaland and Mitrovic seem to be the go-to players really up front, don't they? So I think if you've not got Haaland and Mitrovic, you need to have those two. But in terms of a third striker, I'm looking at a few options really. I'm looking at Ivan Toney, who's just about 0.2 more than Isak. Seems to be a very popular buy. Seems fairly reliable. He does tend to score mostly against the lesser teams. Bit of a flat track bully, but he's got Bournemouth this week. It's a good starting point. So that's one option. And another option I'm looking at is Solanke of Bournemouth, which seems a bit of a left side pick at first glance, but he's got great fixtures over the next 4, which is his big selling point. I think of the two, I think I prefer Toney because he's got 5 goals this season, and Solanke's got 1. I think Brentford have got 15 goals to Bournemouth 6. So it's whether you go for perhaps the better player from the better team, or have a look at those Bournemouth fixtures, because they've certainly got 4 beauties if you want to go for that. And of course there's a 1.5 million saving as well. My third option would have been just to bench Isak really and play Pereira this week. He's got a good fixture, because at the back of my mind, taking Isak down to a 4.5 was sort of in my plan over the next few weeks as a way of getting Trent back. So I could go a few ways, but I'm currently edging towards getting Toney. That's my plan. So that will probably be my plan this week. In terms of captaincy, I think Haaland averaging 10 points a game will probably be my captain again this week. I think if you do own Mo Salah against Brighton, is potentially a great pick. And if you want to go a bit left side, then you've got Maddison at home to Nottingham Forest. He looked fantastic last week, and he's got some fantastic fixtures, so I think Maddison's certainly a very good pick. And probably Mitrovic, so you've certainly got a few options, but I'll probably go with Haaland. So I think in terms of a few things to look out for, both for wildcarders and non-wildcarders, you've got to be very mindful of game week 12 on the horizon. That's a game when Manchester City v Arsenal is postponed to accommodate the postponed Champions League match. So I think if you've got players from those sides, you don't want to be buying players from Man City and Arsenal now. But I think you need to be starting to think about that, because in game week 12, if you've got 5-6 players, if you've got Cancelo, De Bruyne, Haaland, you've got maybe Jesus, you've got Martinelli, maybe an Arsenal defender, you've got 5-6 players there, and in game week 12 they're not playing, so that really is a bit of an issue. So I think when you're planning your transfers, both on wildcard and outside that, you want to be perhaps losing some of those players, which explains why Jesus is starting to see a few drop off in buys, or certainly speeding up of sales, especially when he's got a blank coming up and he's got 2 tough fixtures against Spurs and Liverpool now, hasn't he? So the thing to be conscious of is in game week 12 is that you can of course bench 2 or 3 of those players, and that'd be fine. You can, nothing wrong with fielding your Neco Williams and your Andreas for that week and getting 11 out, benching those players. But be a lot of people playing wildcard in game week 13. I think if you've not already committed to your wildcard in game week 9, I think game week 13 is a good one to wildcard. The advantage are that you can get your Salahs back easily, your Trent Alexander-Arnolds, and you don't have to worry too much about selling your Manchester City and Arsenal players, because you can get them straight back on wildcard when everybody else has sold them. So I think a game week 13 wildcard is looking certainly very attractive as an option. One thing I would say about selling for example, selling Haaland in game week 12 when he blanks, maybe to Kane for a week with a view to wildcarding him back in, is the value tied up in some of your players. So for example, if you sell Haaland and Martinelli in game week 12 when they blank, and then you look to buy them back in on wildcard on game week 13, they probably cost you 0.5, 0.6 more to buy them back. So you've got to be very careful of that. I think my plan will probably to keep Cancelo, Haaland and potentially Martinelli on the bench and try and run with 3, and then they're there. So certainly the important thing is that you've got a plan for game week 12 and start looking at that accordingly, really. So if you're on wildcard, I think some of the key players, you've got to look at players like Zaha and Maddison, who of course have got fantastic fixture runs coming up. Even if you're not on wildcard, I think you need to try and get away, particularly for Maddison this week, and Zaha from game week 10. And Mitrovic, so there's some key players in there. So yeah, play around with your wildcard drafts, but keep in mind that option of game week 12 as well when you're planning your transfers. If you want to follow my team a bit more closely, I write weekly articles for Fantasy Football Geek, and you can follow me there. I'm on Twitter at FPL Witty, and I'll be recording these videos once a week as well. So be sure to like and subscribe. I'll be back next week where we'll have a bit of a look at how we all got on in week 9. So yeah, that's my plan this week. I think I'll probably be bringing Tony in, but at the back of my mind is conscious of getting Salah and Trent back in, so I think you need a bit of a plan to do that, certainly from game week 13, if not game week 12. So De Bruyne to Salah will be on my plans. I might have to do a bit of a keeper downgrade to get there, and I'll either have to, maybe after a 4-week punt on Tony, I might have to take him down to a cheap striker as well to accommodate getting Trent back. So yeah, good luck with your planning. 15 minutes flies by, doesn't it, when you're having fun? So I hope you have a good week. Whatever you do, keep the faith. Don't be discouraged if you've made a slow start. It's very early days yet. So have a good week. I'll be back next week, and as they say in Barnsley, I'll see thee.